I mean, actually, you know, there are all these great shots and stuff like that, but really some of the best shots that I've ever actually hit were actually against Marty. We have some footage of that, don't we? I've actually had the opportunity to play against Marty on a couple of occasions through our Michael Chang Tennis Classic. Marty's been one of our great sponsors and just been a great support for our tournament. And you know, it's been a lot of fun to have someone who loves tennis and certainly has a heart for the Lord to be able to partner with and do some fun things with. So.
Now you got to observe all these people, and there's some guys who are pretty good. Any potentials here?
I think there's always potential. You know, with God, everything's possible. So you know, you never know. It's kind of interesting because you know sometimes we would have a lot of juniors that you know people would say, oh, there's no question. They've won every single junior tournament. They've set records as far as national titles and stuff like that. They're going to go pro. They're going to do very well. And for some reason, one reason or another, they didn't do that well. Then you have other players that were very, very, very good players, but maybe never won a title, never won a national title, and then they went on and all of a sudden they win 14, 15 Grand Slams out there on tour. So I don't know if you guys know, Pete Sampras has never won a national junior title. He was always one of the best juniors in Southern California and obviously in the nation, but he's never won a national junior title. It's actually the closest that he's ever gotten was the 18th National Hard Courts in Burlingame, which he lost in the finals. It was actually to me. But if he wants to go ahead and trade that one for the 1996 U.S. Open that we played, I'd probably be willing to do that. So. But you never know. I think obviously for something like today, I mean we're out here having fun, giving a few tips here and there. But the whole scheme of things, that's really what tennis is and sports is really all about, is bringing people together. Obviously you get a lot of great exercise, but you make a lot of friends along the way. And tennis is really like I said, a sport for a lifetime. Players playing as young as 3 years old, and they're playing as old as 96 years old. So, we're very fortunate to be able to have such a great sport to be able to play and to be a part of it.
So there's hope for me. Now you got to observe my game. I just want to know, can you comment on my game? And am I in my profession, or did I miss the boat? I should have went a different path, a different road.
I thought your hands were actually pretty good out there. Do you want me to show what kind of? So let me give you an example. So I might as well grab the racket, right? So we played some net points, and this is what I saw from Pastor. Everything was here. Everything was great hands. I tried really hard. I couldn't tell how good the footwork was. But every ball was coming back. So I'm not sure if he had put maybe just a little bit of footwork in. There's potential there. But hey, he got great hands. So that's a promising stuff.
Okay, I was the center. That was my job, set the bait. My guys can't dance anyway. We just can't. And some of the guys, I know there's some pretty good guys. Maybe they're thinking, maybe I could go junior, maybe pro. What is the path? How do you get there? How do you get to play at your level? Like, very few people can get there. How do you do it?
It's very interesting because the path that you would take here in the U.S. is actually very different than the path that you would take overseas. So overseas, they actually don't really have to worry about breaking NCAA rules, collegiate, and all that other stuff. So I played. I'll give you an example. Like I played Fabrice Santoro in the finals of the Petits, which is one of the biggest junior tournaments in the southern part of France, and we played in the semifinals over there. We were both 14 years old. By that time, Fabrice was basically already pro. So he had all of his sponsors. He could actually go and play professional tournaments if he wanted to, take as much money as he earned. No problem. That's just the way that they do it in Europe. In the United States, it's very different. If you're looking to go and play collegiate tennis, you can go play professional events, but you're not allowed to take the prize money. You can take expense money, but you're not allowed to take prize money because of NC2A rules. So there's really a few different ways you can go about doing it. Whoever wants to play a professional tournament can actually go and play a professional tournament. Doesn't matter what level you are, doesn't matter, it's open to anybody. Guys that go play futures, people that don't have any points at all can go and play qualifying in a future event for guys. Not a problem, So I always encourage people. I said, if you have a desire to go out and play professional tennis, go out and play. Go out and play. Maybe start off with a local men's open tournament. See how you do with the local men's open tournament. You do well there, go and play a futures event. There's no harm in doing it. Worst comes to worst, you lose. I mean, it's no big deal, right? So that's the great thing about tennis. We play so much. If you lose, there's always next week. So so the system is depends on how you want to go about doing it. You can take the college route. A lot of people do very, very well in college. Maybe they're not ready for professional tournaments just yet. A great example is John Isner. John Isner had a good junior career, not a great junior career, but a very, very good junior career. Went and played 4 years at Georgia, did very, very well. And now he's top 20 in the world and doing very, very well. He's beaten just about every top player out there. So there really isn't a set way to go about becoming professional. But I think the first and foremost thing is you go out and you have passion for it. As anything that you would do, wherever God has gifted you and talented you, you have a passion for it. When you have a passion for it, it's easy to go out there and put the time in and work hard. And a lot of times hard work doesn't seem like hard work.
How about tips for parents? Maybe I have a child, it looks like they have potential, I get them started in a league, or we just play and practice. Some tips for parents on how to develop their young person to play tennis. What some things your mom did that helped you develop your game, some do's and some don'ts for parents?
Yeah, that's a tough question because I'm a parent now, but my little girl turns 3 in December, and my second is only 8 months. So far I'm doing okay. They're not kind of telling me, Dad, enough, get off the court. I have to say, to be a parent is tough. I mean, I've seen it, where juniors and stuff they hear it a lot from their parents, and it's very, very tough. I know that with my mom and dad, we did a lot of things together as a family, and I think their first and foremost thing with tennis was just for us to really go out and enjoy it. They didn't think about going professional. They didn't think about winning and losing and stuff like that. Obviously, it's always nicer to win than to lose, but no player in the history of tennis is going to be winning every single week. It just doesn't happen. So you learn to be able to take the good and the bad, and ultimately, I think they were hoping, well, maybe the kids would get a college scholarship out of it. So, Carl played 4 years at Cal, and I happened to turn pro, a little bit on the earlier side, and God just worked it out that way. But I think ultimately, probably one of the biggest things that was comforting for me as a junior and also as a professional is knowing that whenever I got off the court, no matter if I won 6-0, 6-0 or I've lost 6-0, 6-0, which has happened in the juniors, unfortunately. I think my first tournament, I lost 6-0, 6-0. Come off the court, tears, can't believe I lost to that guy. And it happens. But I think probably one of the most comforting things for me was to know that when I walked off that court and I saw my mom and dad greeted me with a smile, they were encouraging, and didn't get on my case or anything. And that gave me kind of freedom to be able to say, all right, let's go back, work harder, and come back and play better next time. So that was always a good feeling, knowing that it didn't matter whether I won or whether I lost, it wouldn't change how much my mom and dad loved me.
Are there times where you would say as parents we can maybe push? How do you know as a parent, am I pushing too hard, or am I not pushing hard enough? Am I setting high expectations, or are my expectations just too high?
I think it's actually a pretty fine line. To say, well, how much is pushing too much and how much is pushing, not enough. And I've seen it on both sides before. Obviously, I've seen the side where just pushing too much and the parent is not quite understanding that the child needs to take a break, needs to be able to go out and not have someone in their ear all the time. But then I've seen it the other way too, where, I have a friend of mine who played professional tennis, was one of the best players in the United States, and his mentality was, I'm not going to push my kids to play tennis. I know it's a lot of pressure, I'm not going to push them to play tennis. Never pushed them at all. And his girls grew up and stuff like that, and he was kind of like, well, if they want to play, they'll watch me play, and they'll say, hey Dad, can you introduce tennis to us? Never pushed them at all. And he's like, well, they just never really enjoyed tennis. Come 14, 15 years old, daughters come to him one day and say, Dad, how come you never introduced tennis to us? And he was like, what? What? I just figured that I didn't want to push them. But I never knew that they wanted to actually play, And so he was kind of like, oh, if I had known that, I waited all this time, I would have done that a little bit earlier. So I think it's important for parents to be able to recognize, hey, does my kid have a talent in tennis? Do they have a passion to play? I think if you see your child have a talent for something, whether it's tennis, whether it's something else, I think you should encourage them. Absolutely. Your eye, I think in many, many ways is going to be a lot better than their eye and maybe a lot of other people's eyes. And encourage them in it. Just say, hey, I just think you're pretty good at it. If this is something that you really want to do, we'll spend the time and the energy and the finances to help you become the best you can be, and who knows where God takes it from there.
Now, tennis takes not only technical skill, but there's another side of the game. There's the psychological, there's the emotional, there's the strategic. Can you comment on those aspects of the game?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Tennis, there is certainly the physical side of it, but at the same time, there's the mental side, and I think in a lot of this is actually a spiritual side, because at least for me, I know I'm going out there, playing with the purpose of really going out there and trying to glorify the Lord. But to be honest with you, the mental side actually plays a much bigger role, I think, than the physical. And the reason why is that I played against so many players that I know, and everybody else knows, that from a physical standpoint, they're bigger, stronger, better, maybe not faster, but they're bigger, stronger, better than I am out on the court. And I've gone out on the court basically knowing that this guy's better than I am. From a technical standpoint, from a playability standpoint, better player. But I think what makes the difference between a lot of times winning and losing those matches is how are they able to take all of those shots and strategically put them together and make a match out of it. Because if you're not able to utilize all of your gifts the right way, be able to take advantage of a guy's weaknesses and be able to avoid their strengths, tennis is still a lot about strategic, right? It's not always about the guy that can hit the fastest serve or hit the hardest ball. If a guy hits a big forehand all the time, it's okay, I'm not going to give you a short, high forehand every time. I'm going to give you a low, deep forehand. How well can you hit that? So, a lot of times I go out and I play smarter tennis in order to beat guys that are basically better than I am. It's a thinking man's game out there. And at the same time, the mental side comes into play as far as, okay, what do you believe? What do you believe? If a guy doesn't believe he can beat you, he won't beat you. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. And I've shared this with a lot of high schoolers, because I know confidence is a big thing for a lot of young people. If you don't have confidence to be able to go out and do something, you don't believe you're going to go do it, you're not going to accomplish it. The best guys in the world don't go out there, Roger Federer didn't become number one by thinking, I think maybe I can become number one. Or you didn't go out there becoming number one thinking, well, maybe, I think I can do it. No, he worked really hard thinking, I can do this, I can do this. But it's not an easy thing, but you have to be able to have the confidence to be able to say you can do something. And for me, it's great. It's great to be able to go out and play a guy and look into their eyes and be able to see that they don't think they can win. It gives me a lot more confidence going out there on the court. I remember one conversation that I had with Wayne Ferreira, and there was another guy in the locker room, and we were talking about this one player. I won't tell you who the player is, but he was an up-and-coming player, big guy. served bombs and was incredibly talented. Could do everything from every part of the court. But he didn't work hard. He just relied everything upon his talent. And I don't think he really got to that point where he really believed he could do it. And we were talking about how good this guy could be, and he was very young at the time. And we were talking, we were saying, man, if someone ever just took him aside and just say, hey, if you just put in that much more hard work, if you just believed, he'd be unbelievable. He'd be unbelievable. And we're kind of looking at each other and we're like, you're not going to tell him, are you? I'm not going to tell him. Are you going to tell him? I'm not going to tell him that. So obviously, we're competing against him. None of us told him. And he went on to have a very good career, but unfortunately, by the time he realized that, hey, I needed to have confidence and I needed to work hard, his best years were already gone. And it was a little bit sad from that perspective. Obviously, from a selfish standpoint, from a player perspective, when you're competing against players, you never want to give other players the edge. Sometimes it's difficult in that regard. You like to be able to help them, but then you get, well, I don't want to face them in that situation either. Serena Williams and Sloane Stephens is actually a good example of that. I don't know if you know, but Sloane Stephens, before she beat Serena at Australia, for the 2 years prior, Serena was actually a mentor for her. I don't know if you know that, but she was one telling her you got to have confidence. You got encouraging her, practicing with her. And what is Sloane doing? All of a sudden she's kind of like this. All of a sudden she's kind of like this. She's gaining confidence. All of a sudden Australia, hey, I'm playing against you, And all of a sudden, Serena gets a little bit hurt, and all of a sudden you think Sloane's like, oh, I'm not going to beat my mentor. No, I'm going to go out there and beat her. And now look at her. She's going out there playing with so much confidence. So, what you believe, strategy, all of that plays a very, very important role. And I think in a lot of instances plays even a more important role than the actual physical aspect of playing tennis. And the mental side is something you never see.
No, what do you do as a player if that's your problem? You just can't get a handle on your emotions. You can't get your head right. And I played both in golf tournaments and basketball tournaments in high school and college. And I would say practice was easy, but getting on the court, everyone's yelling and screaming, and then actually playing, it's different. And the hardest thing I had to deal with was the psychological and the emotions. I just had a hard time getting a hold of my emotions. How do you do that?
I think the first thing, for me, honestly, I pray. I pray. And I have to tell you one of the reasons why I do that. Because I'm a pretty reserved person. I get a little bit excited if I hit a great shot and stuff like that. But I'm not a super emotional type of person, like a John McEnroe, where if I get a slightly bad call, I'm not going to throw my racket. I'm not going to have a tantrum and stuff like that. So I'm pretty level. And my mom always told me at a very young age that I play my best tennis when I'm calm. And when I'm calm and at peace, I can think my way through situations. And if I get rattled, I let the crowd get to me, which does happen because you play against somebody who's from that country, the crowd will try to rattle you. They will boo you, they will say all these different kinds of things. They will do things to try to distract you. So for me, it's important that if I stay calm and focused, I can most of the time think my way through a match. If I'm struggling in a certain aspect, I can think my way, figure it out, get better, and get better and better and better as the match goes on and on and on. I may not start off great, but by the time I finish the match, I'm pretty good. If I start off the match well, I can finish the match great. And a lot of that is just being focused and being able to keep things into proper perspective. So that for me is has been important for me to have. And I think also knowing the fact that ultimately, all I can do is really go out there and give my 100%. I can't give 101%. I go out there, I prepare the best way that I know how, and I go out there and I give my 100% best. Sometimes I'm going to be able to win. Hopefully I win more than I lose, but unfortunately there will be times where the guy is better than I am. But as long as I know I've given my 100%, I can walk off the court knowing that's all I can ask of myself. That's all God wants from me, and that's all people can ask of me. There's nothing else that I can do, and I should be able to walk off the court with my head held high, feeling good about the effort that I gave.
You mentioned it a couple times, the role that faith has played in your life and in your career. Could you elaborate a little bit more? When did you put your faith in Christ? Why did you put your faith in Christ? And what influence has it had? How has it helped you in your life and in your career?
You know, the interesting thing is that I actually come from a pretty strong Christian family on my dad's side. My grandparents actually helped found a church up in the Thousand Oaks area. And believe it or not, when I was young, my parents took me to church. So I didn't like church. No offense.
No, I didn't either.
I didn't like church. And I'll tell you the reason why. It's very different than it is today. When I was young, there was no Sunday school. There was no youth group. So when I went to church, I had to sit in the main sanctuary. So, the best thing probably that I remember about going to church, we had gone to a Chinese church in San Diego. I think the best thing was that after church, there was always good food. There was always good food. But it was tough to sit in the sanctuary and to hear a sermon that, as a 9, 10-year-old, I didn't understand. So I was kind of like, well, why do we have to go to church? I'm not really understanding what's happening. I'd much rather be out playing tennis, be out playing soccer, stuff like that. So I grew up with a certain image of church being something that, is for adults and for big people and stuff like that. I would go up to Thousand Oaks to visit my grandparents. And, one Sunday we happened to be there, and I went to the main sanctuary again. I'm thinking, all right, it's kind of going through the motions a little bit, and there was an elderly lady there speaking. And her sermon was very, very different. She was incredibly engaging. She was super, super funny, and it kept my attention the whole time. And even to this day, I was 15 years old. Actually, I was 16 years old. Even to this day, I remember exactly what she talked about. That's how much that sermon impacted me as a 16-year-old. And I started to think to myself, and she had talked about how God has a purpose for everything, and she talked about, the story about, this family in China, and they were complaining that they had missed the ferry. And they were saying, oh, now that we missed the ferry, we've got to wait another 5-6 hours for the next one and stuff like that. And they ended up finding out that by the time they got to their destination, they actually took the second ferry. The first ferry actually had an accident and sunk, and everybody passed away on that ferry. And they started to realize that, God was protecting them in that instance, and that God has a purpose for everything. And so after that, I started to think to myself, what does God really have planned for me? I'm thinking to myself, well, I have interests and stuff like that, but I started thinking to myself, well, what is life really about? We're born into this world with nothing. When we leave, we can take nothing with us. I can't take my bank account, my French Open trophy, and my battle-out rackets. I'm not going to take any of that stuff with me. So, what can I take with me? And when you think about it, what you really can take with you are the people that you love. When you're in your last day, you're not going to be asking for all of those things. You're going to be asking for what's important to you, people that you love, people that love you, to be around you, to be able to share those moments with. So, for me, the timing and stuff in which I became a Christian was pretty incredible. I became a Christian my rookie year out on tour, which was 1988, which actually was before all the French Open that happened in '89, as well as all of the fame and all the money and stuff that came with winning titles. I became a Christian before all of that. So the great thing was that I knew that God was the one that gave me the talent to play tennis, and I knew that all of the victories and all of that was because of Him. And then my job was really to go out, take the talent that had been given to me, and be able to go out there and touch lives with it. And it's something that I'm, still trying to do today, even though I'm not out there playing on the main tour, but trying to take advantage of opportunities, because, when you've been blessed in so many ways and you've experienced God's love and His joy and His peace in your life, you want other people to share in that as well. I never tried to force Christianity down anyone's cutthroat or anything like that, but I give them the opportunity to be able to hear, and certainly for me to be able to share, because it's very close to my heart. And I tell people, hey, if you're interested and you want to learn about God, ask Him yourself. Just say, hey God, if you're real, reveal it to me. Show me that you're real, and you'll be surprised.
I had a kind of similar experience when I was growing up. 13, I came from a very secular family, and we went to church on Christmas and Easter, but God really wasn't part of my life. There was something really missing, and my father was converted, but my parents were divorced, so.
It's not the most important thing for me. I really kind of feel like, you could put the French Open on there, you can put Davis Cup on there, you can, put a lot of the, great points and stuff like that, but, when I think about my life and what's really important, I really think about my faith, and I think about family. Because I think about, the things that, mean a lot to me. People only see this side of the tennis aspect, but people don't see, okay, how much hard work has your mom and dad put together, in order for you to be able to get to this point. My brother coached me for 12 years. My mom and dad, basically didn't see each other for the first 4 years of my career. My mom quit her job to come travel with me because as a 15, 16-year-old, they wouldn't give me a credit card back then. Right? I can't do anything. I'm not going to carry all this cash with me. I can't drive. I didn't get my driver's license until I was 19. So, I can't do anything. So, it's very, very difficult for me. So, when I think about what is really meaningful in my life, I think about, my family, now, being married and having kids. I think the French Open stuff is great, but it's nothing compared to, it's nothing compared to marrying the love of your life and having children. You hear people talk about, the joys and stuff that it is to be a dad and to be a parent, and so you won't really understand how much you love your kids. How many times have your parents say, you'll understand, you'll understand when you become a parent, and it's so true. And I think in many, many ways that, the love that I feel toward my wife and certainly toward my girls is a little bit of a taste of how much God loves me, and how much God loves each and every one of us. But in reality, as much as I love them, it's still only a fraction of how much God loves each and every one of us. So if you think about that, in comparison, it's really mind-boggling. So, people say, well, what do you want to be remembered for? I said, well, I want to be remembered, first and foremost as, that I love the Lord, to be a great husband, to be a great dad. Those are much, much more important for me than going out and winning the French Open and all those other things. To be with family, it's every day, and they're the ones that know you inside out. They see you on your good days, they see you on your bad days, really that, I think in many, many ways, that's your first ministry, and that's your first testimony, I think, in many, many ways, to be able to care for family. So I try to make the effort to be able to, be the best husband and father that I can. So tennis is somewhere down the line, and it always has been.
How about, how has your faith helped you? You said you became a Christian before you became successful. And a lot of people here, everyone just dreams of success. I think it's such a panacea. Wouldn't it be wonderful, like being heaven on earth? What's it really like to be as successful as you have been? And how has your faith played in dealing with the trappings of success? Because you see it on TV all the time. And also talk about some of your disappointments. And how has your faith helped you with your disappointments in life?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that how the world views success is very different than how God views success. I think that the world views success as far as how much you've accomplished, how far you've gone up the ladder, how much money you make, how famous you are. That's why I tell you, I think God is very gracious to me that before all of that stuff took place, I came to know the Lord. And I think, if it happened after all of those things, I think it would be easy to be able to say, well, Lord, I really don't need you. Because in the eyes of the world, I am a success. And I didn't know you back then, so why do I need you now? But I think if you really think about life, and you think about what's important, and you think about eternity, you start to understand, you start to grasp that those are the things that don't last, right? Those are the things that don't last. I mean, you can go out and you can buy, a nice brand new racket, or you can go buy a nice house, or you can buy a nice car, or whatever, but all of a sudden, after a period of time, those things aren't new anymore, right? And the lure of success is, if I can go out and buy something and buy my happiness, when that happiness is done because it's worn off or it's broken, then what do? You buy the next thing, right? You buy the next thing, you buy the next thing. But does it really satisfy? No, if it really satisfied in life, you would want what you originally got, and not thinking, oh, what's the greener pasture, right? And that's the difference, I think, with Christianity. When you've come to know the Lord, and you've experienced the amount of joy that He has, and you have the satisfaction of knowing that, hey, after this life, I know where I'm going, and to be able to be with family and friends, what else can compare with that? Your joy is not based upon, going and winning the tournament. Your joy is not based upon, how much money you have in the bank. Your joy is based upon, the Lord giving that to you in your heart. And that's the biggest difference between being successful in the world and being successful in the eyes of the Lord. And to be honest with you, to be successful in the eyes of the Lord is actually easier, right? I mean, if you think about it, it's really only coming down to two things. It's really loving the Lord your God and loving people. I mean, those are the two biggest commandments. That's all it is. It's not always easy to love everybody, right? Not always easy to love everybody. But if you think about it, I mean, how much easier is it to do that than to be able to go out and say, all right, I feel like going out and making $1 million today. They had one really interesting question. They had asked one of the wealthiest persons in the world, multi-billionaire, and they said, I just have one question to ask you. You're a billionaire. You've been very, very successful in your company, in your business. How much money is enough? How much money? What point do you need to get to in your life before you say, I've got enough. I've got enough to live the rest of my life? You know what his response was? And this is the lure of success in the eyes of the world. This is the lure of money and fame that doesn't bring you satisfaction in life. You know what his answer was? He said, he looked the reporter straight in the eye, and he says, just $1 more. He said, just $1 more. Multi-billionaire. He says, just $1 more. What happens toward the end of his life? Right? He's got all this money. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? Right? You can't take it with you. So you spend all of your time searching after all of these things that, in the end, doesn't satisfy. Right? So, from a perspective of what really matters in life, that's when you really start thinking about it. And unfortunately, a lot of Hollywood people try to find it in other ways, whether it's drugs or whatever, or drinking or whatever, and they're looking for something, they're searching for something, and they can't find it. And there's a reason why Hollywood can't find it. It's not there.
One last question, then I'll open it up for Q&A. What is God currently doing in your life? In what ways is He stirring you?
Well, God's been doing a lot of great things in my life. So, like I mentioned, I got two little ones. My oldest is turning 3 in December, and my wife has already told her that she's going to throw her a little mermaid party for her birthday. And so it's really, really cute because every day she says, Dad, I'm going to have a little mermaid party. Every day she says it. It's the cutest thing. And she does this every little mermaid thing. We were at the pool the other day, and this little girl had a little mermaid action figure. Just like, Dad, little mermaid action figure, little mermaid. I want that, So it's really, really cute. So I'm really, really enjoying fatherhood. My little one is just starting to scoot. So she'll put a little toy maybe like 10, 12 feet from her, and it takes her about maybe 10 seconds to get there. trying to find any which way, this way, she'll flip over, and it's so it's a lot of fun. So it's been great to the family aspect. Obviously our charity tennis tournament that happens every July, which I know all you guys are going to sign up for. So that's been a lot of fun, and certainly playing out a fair amount on the Champions Tour, and just really going out and enjoying life, and trying to touch lives and touch hearts. At a very fun stage, in life right now, and certainly for even coming out in the courts today, for me to come out and see so many of you guys hit great shots, and see you guys smile and laugh has been a lot of fun. I do have to say it is actually kind of fun to watch you guys. I'll hit a volley. I had it happen a couple of times today, where I hit a volley to you, and I think there was a couple of you that just went like this, and kind of really didn't know where the angle of the racket was faced, but somehow you went like this, and you were kind of, and before I knew it, like the ball was like past me for a winner, and then some people were kind of like, oh yeah, that was me. That was me. So I thought that was really cute. For me, it's a lot of fun to be able to come out on a day like today, and like I said, I mean, when you enjoy tennis, I've been playing since I was 6 years old. There's a reason why you guys enjoy tennis, and I'm no different than the reason that you guys are out there playing and enjoying. So, staying healthy, having fun, laughing and having a good time. That's what it's all about.
All right, I have a question and answers. Roger, do we have any?